The 1960s were the golden age of American muscle cars, an era when Detroit's Big Three and smaller competitors stuffed the biggest V8 engines they could build into midsize and compact cars, creating legends on the street and strip. In today's mega episode, I will take you through the 26 best American muscle cars of the 1960s. Number 26, the 1969 Chevrolet Chevelle SS396. It struck the perfect balance between affordability, style, and brute force, making it one of the most beloved muscle cars of the era. It wasn't the fastest car on the drag strip, nor the most exotic, but it delivered massive V8 performance in a package that looked sharp, drove comfortably, and didn't break the bank. Under the hood, the SS396 came standard with a 396 cubic inch big block V8, producing 325 horsepower in base form, with available upgrades to 350 or even 375 horsepower for those wanting more street authority. Buyers had the option of pairing the engine with either a 3-speed or 4-speed manual transmission, or a turbo hydromatic automatic. A heavy-duty suspension, power front disc brakes, dual exhaust, and SS badging all came standard. The Chevelle's muscular stance, bulging hood with twin scoops, and subtle striping gave it a road presence that matched its mechanical brawn. More than just a numbers car, the Chevelle SS396 became a symbol of attainable power. It was the kind of car young enthusiasts could buy new and drive to work, school, or the track. Its wide availability and everyday usability made it a common sight on main streets across America, but its looks and performance gave it legend status. Today, the 1969 Chevelle SS396 is remembered not only for its quarter-mile capability, but for being the people's muscle car, tough, handsome, and undeniably cool. Number 25, the 1965 Shelby 427 Cobra. It was the nuclear option in an escalating horsepower war of the 1960s. Born from a transatlantic collaboration, it combined a lightweight British AC roadster chassis with a brutally powerful American engine. Carroll Shelby, not content with the earlier 289 versions, shoehorned Ford's monstrous 427 cubic inch FE V8 into the compact frame, turning the Cobra into a barely street-legal race car. With over 425 horsepower and a curb weight of around 2,400 pounds, the 427 Cobra delivered a power-to-weight ratio that bordered on insane. Acceleration was nothing short of violent. The 427 Cobra could blast from 0 to 60 in just over 4 seconds and run the quarter mile in the low 12s, numbers that were borderline unthinkable for a street car at the time. Its chassis was completely redesigned with coil springs all around to handle the added power, and its flared fenders and wider tires hinted at the ferocity beneath the hood. Although only about 348 of the 427 Cobras were ever built, the car's legend far outstripped its production numbers. It became an icon of American racing muscle and was feared on track and street alike. Its raw, unfiltered nature meant it demanded skill to drive, but rewarded bravery with unforgettable performance. The 1965 Shelby 427 Cobra remains one of the most visceral and celebrated machines ever created, an eternal symbol of what happens when muscle meets minimalism. Number 24, the 1969 Hurst 442. It was Oldsmobile's answer to GM's corporate ban on engines over 400 cubic inches in midsize cars, and it came dressed to impress. With the help from Hurst Performance, Oldsmobile bypassed the restriction by marketing the car as a special edition rather than a factory trim, allowing it to drop a massive 455 cubic inch V8 into the Cutlass-based 442. Rated at 380 horsepower and 500 foot-pounds of torque, the Hurst Olds was a torque monster, capable of mid-13-second quarter-mile runs and blistering street performance. Draped in cameo white with fire frost gold stripes, a functional mailbox-style hood scoop, and Hurst badging, it was impossible to ignore. A limited run of just 906 cars made it ultra-rare, but its impact was oversized. Each model came with a Hurst dual-gate hiss-and-Hurst shifter, heavy-duty suspension, and upscale interior features blending brute strength with class and comfort. It wasn't just a straight-line bullet. It was a refined muscle car for drivers who wanted power without sacrificing polish. Enthusiasts loved its mature attitude, and the car offered a unique take on muscle in a market filled with bare-knuckle brawlers. The 69 Hurst proved that you could break the rules and still play the game. It was bold, powerful, and distinctly Oldsmobile, a refined sledgehammer wrapped in gold trim. Today, it stands as one of the most coveted and unusual expressions of late 60s muscle ingenuity. Number 23, the 1969 Dodge Dart GTS 440. Often referred to as the M-Code Dart, it was one of Mopar's boldest experiments and one of the most insane muscle cars ever sold to the public. In a limited run of just 640 units, Dodge shoehorned a massive 440 cubic inch big block V8 into the smallest car, the A-body Dart. The result was a pint-sized missile capable of laying waste to just about anything at the drag strip. With a conservative rating of 375 horsepower and 480 foot-pounds of torque, the 440 Dart was capable of 13-second quarter-mile runs in stock form, and it easily dipped into the 12s with slicks and minor tuning. But power was only part of the story. The 440 was so large that power steering and air conditioning had to be omitted, making the Dart a raw, no-frills performance machine. Even the battery was relocated to the trunk for better weight distribution. To the untrained eye, the GTS 440 looked like an ordinary Dart with a hood bulge and badges. But in truth, it was a giant killer. Lightweight, overpowered, and stripped of comfort, it existed solely to terrorize Camaros, GTOs, and Mustangs. Today, the 69 Dodge Dart GTS 440 is revered among Mopar fans for its sheer audacity and unmatched power-to-weight ratio. It was a factory hot rod in its purest form. Small body, big engine, and no apologies. Number 22, the 1968 Plymouth GTX 440. It was built for the muscle car buyer who wanted big block power without sacrificing comfort or elegance. Positioned as the gentleman's hot rod, the GTX was based on the mid-size Belvedere, but came standard with upscale trim and a 440 Super Commando V8. Rated at 375 horsepower and 480 foot-pounds of torque, this engine gave the GTX muscle to match its refined looks, capable of quarter-mile times in the mid-14-second range right off the showroom floor. Buyers could also opt for the legendary 426 Hemi, but the 440 was no slouch and was better suited for everyday driving thanks to its broader torque curve and more manageable temperament. A torque flight automatic or 4-speed manual transmission delivered power to the pavement, while heavy-duty suspension, dual exhaust, and a standard sure grip rear end gave the GTX the traction it needed. Visually, the car stood out with its chrome accents, dual hood scoops, and optional blacked-out grille. Inside, it offered bucket seats, premium materials, and an available tachometer, blending muscle car aggression with a touch of class. The 68 GTX proved that a muscle car didn't have to be brash to be bold. It was fast, stylish, and refined, a rare balance in a time when excess ruled the streets. Today, the GTX 440 remains a favorite among collectors for its combination of brute force and tasteful restraint. Number 21, the 1966 Plymouth Satellite 426 Hemi. It was one of the first factory-backed muscle cars to feature Chrysler's now mythical 426 Hemi V8, unleashing full-blown race technology into a street-legal form. Sitting atop the mid-size B-body satellite line, this car delivered intimidating power in an understated package. The 426 Hemi engine packed 425 horsepower and 490 foot-pounds of torque, numbers that, even today, command respect. With dual 4-barrel carburetors, a forged steel crankshaft, hemispherical combustion chambers, and high-flow heads, the Hemi was a mechanical monster designed to withstand the stresses of NASCAR racing. Backed by a heavy-duty torque flight automatic or a 4-speed manual, the satellite Hemi could run the quarter mile in the low 13-second range, and do so all day long. Though relatively conservative in appearance, the satellite's clean lines and simple trim made it the perfect sleeper. Optional mag wheels and subtle Hemi callouts were the only visual hints at the violence under the hood. Inside, it remained a comfortable midsize cruiser with bucket seats and optional center console. Only 314 satellite hardtops were fitted with the 426 Hemi in 1966, making it an extremely rare and desirable collector's car today. But more importantly, it was part of a groundbreaking moment in muscle car history, when manufacturers stopped pretending and started building cars that mirrored their racetrack intentions. Number 20, the 1969 Chevrolet Chevelle Capo 427. It wasn't something you'd find on a standard dealership order sheet. It was the result of performance-savvy dealers and insiders exploiting Chevrolet's Central Office Production Order, or COPO, system, normally reserved for fleet vehicles, to equip select Chevelles with the mighty L72 427 cubic inch V8. Rated at 425 horsepower and 460 foot-pounds of torque, the Iron Block L72 was a no-nonsense drag strip dominator, lifted straight from Chevrolet's Corvette and big block parts bin. Unlike the more widely known SS396, the Capo Chevelle kept a low profile. There were no flashy graphics or bold badging, just a plain mid-size body hiding outrageous performance potential. The Capo Chevelle was engineered for a specific kind of buyer, the street racer who knew what mattered most under the hood. Backed by a heavy-duty suspension, beefy 12-bolt rear axle, and either a Muncie 4-speed or Turbo 400 automatic, the Capo 427 Chevelle could hit low 13s in the quarter mile straight off the showroom floor. Only about 323 were built with the L72, making them one of the rarest and most desirable Chevelles ever. It was a car built in quiet rebellion against GM's own performance limits, and it paid off in spades. The Capo Chevelle didn't need flash to prove a point. It was loud where it mattered, at the strip, on the street, and in the minds of anyone who dared line up next to it. Number 19, the 1964 Pontiac GTO. It didn't just start a trend, it ignited a movement. Widely regarded as the first true muscle car, it took a relatively ordinary midsize Tempest and gave it an identity rooted in brute strength. Engineers John DeLorean, Bill Collins, and Russ Gee sidestepped GM's corporate ban on big engines in small cars by offering the GTO as an optional package. Under the hood, the 389 cubic inch V8 with up to 348 horsepower when equipped with tri-power or 3 2-barrel carburetors. It came with a 4-speed manual transmission, dual exhaust, heavy-duty suspension, and optional limited-slip differential, delivering quarter-mile times in the low 14s and sending shockwaves through Detroit. More than 32,000 GTOs were sold in the first year alone, far exceeding Pontiac's expectations and proving there was a hungry market for affordable, stylish performance. Visually, the GTO featured a hood scoop, dual chrome exhaust tips, and subtle badging. But it was the attitude that set it apart, a blend of youth, rebellion, and raw power that connected instantly with a new generation of buyers. The GTO didn't just change Pontiac, it forced the entire American automotive industry to take notice. It became the blueprint for muscle cars to come and earned its nickname, the GOAT, from a fan base that revered it for its unfiltered aggression. Number 18, the 1967 Dodge Coronet RT440. It marked a turning point in Dodge's muscle car history. It was the first time the now iconic RT or Road and Track badge appeared on a production Dodge vehicle, a name that would become synonymous with high performance. Built off the mid-size Coronet platform, the RT came with a 440 Magnum V8, a powerhouse that churned out 375 horsepower and 480 foot-pounds of torque, making it one of the most potent big blocks available to the public. Paired with either a TorqueFlite automatic or a 4-speed manual transmission, the Coronet RT delivered straight-line performance worthy of its name. Quarter-mile times hovered in the low to mid 14-second range, plenty fast for a full-size car weighing nearly 2 tons. For those seeking even more venom, Dodge also offered the legendary 426 Hemi as an option, albeit in extremely limited numbers. While other muscle cars favored flash and youth appeal, the Coronet RT exuded a more mature, aggressive vibe. With its squared-off lines, RT badging, hood scoops, and performance tires, it balanced brute force with understated menace. Inside, bucket seats and a sporty dashboard kept drivers connected to the car's performance roots. The 1967 Coronet RT laid the foundation for future Dodge performance vehicles and helped push Mopar into the muscle car spotlight. It wasn't just about raw numbers. It was about attitude, and the RT had it in spades. Today, it's a respected elder in the Mopar performance lineage, admired for its pioneering role and bold street presence. Number 17, the 1968 AMC AMX 390. It was a bold and unconventional entry into the muscle car arena, coming from a company better known for economy cars than high-performance machines. But AMC had a point to prove, and the AMX did just that. With its distinctive short wheelbase, 2-seat layout, and aggressive fastback styling, the AMX was a compact and unique muscle car alternative that stood out in a crowded field. Under the hood of the top-tier AMX beat a 390 cubic inch V8, pumping out 315 horsepower and 425 foot-pounds of torque. It could hit 60 miles per hour in just over 6 seconds and run the quarter mile in the low 14s, performance that rivaled Mustangs and Camaros of the era. Made it to either a 4-speed manual or automatic, the AMX featured heavy-duty suspension, quick ratio steering, and optional limited-slip rear axle, giving it solid handling and road manners. Beyond its numbers, the AMX had personality. It appealed to buyers looking for something different, more compact than a Corvette, more exclusive than a Mustang. With just over 6,700 built in its debut year, it was rare from the start and packed a punch far greater than its size or price tag suggested. The 68 AMX 390 marked a turning point for AMC, showcasing that innovation and attitude can come from unexpected places. Today, it's celebrated as a quirky, muscular icon that dared to go its own way, and won respect doing it. Number 16, the 1969 Ford Mustang Boss 429. It wasn't just a muscle car. It was a compliance weapon. Born out of Ford's desire to dominate NASCAR, the Boss 429 was created to homologate their new 429 cubic inch semi-hemispherical V8 engine for stock car racing. To do that, they needed to put the engine in production cars. The Mustang became the unlikely host, and CarCraft, a specialty contractor in Michigan, was tasked with the radical surgery needed to make it fit. What emerged was a hand-built beast. The 429 shotgun V8 was conservatively rated at 375 horsepower, though real-world figures were closer to 500. It featured aluminum cylinder heads, a high-rise intake, forged internals, and a massive Holley 4-barrel carburetor. The engine sat so wide and far back in the engine bay that shock towers had to be re-engineered. Despite its massive engine, the Boss 429 wasn't the fastest Mustang off the line due to its mild cam and detuned setup for emissions. But with a few bolt-ons, it became a monster. It came only in fastback form with a 4-speed manual, 3.91 rear gears, and front disc brakes. Its understated looks, free of stripes or spoilers, belied its purpose. With just 859 units produced in '69, the Boss 429 is as rare as it is revered. Today, it stands as one of the most valuable and collectible Mustangs ever made, a true fusion of racing intent and street-legal form. Number 15, the 1965 Chevrolet Chevelle Z16. It was a low-production, high-impact model that served as Chevrolet's early foray into the emerging muscle car war. While Pontiac had already launched the GTO, Chevrolet wanted a competitor that could play in the same league, but with more polish. The result was the Z16, a special package that stuffed the massive 396 cubic inch L37 V8 into the lightweight Chevrolet Malibu SS body, producing 375 horsepower and 420 foot-pounds of torque. The Z16 wasn't just about brute strength. It was equipped with power front disc brakes, heavy-duty suspension, a 12-bolt rear end with 3.31 gears, and boxed rear control arms for added rigidity. It came exclusively with a 4-speed manual transmission and was available only as a 2-door hardtop coupe in Regal Red, Caracas Yellow, or Tuxedo Black, each trimmed with upscale Malibu SS appointments. Only 201 were produced, including the pilot car and a single Corvette, making the Z16 one of the rarest Chevelles ever built. But it wasn't a stripped-down street fighter. With a full instrumentation, plush interiors, and a smooth ride, the Z16 offered a blend of muscle and maturity. While it predates the more famous SS396 models, the Z16 laid the groundwork for Chevrolet's big block dominance in the late 60s. It showed that muscle could be both fast and refined, and it opened the door for future Chevelles to carry the torch. Today, it stands as a valuable and often overlooked cornerstone of Chevy performance history. Number 14, the 1969 Mercury Cyclone Spoiler II. It was a product of the intense Aero wars brewing on NASCAR tracks in the late 60s. Built specifically to homologate Mercury's aerodynamic enhancements for competition, it was a limited production beast designed for one purpose: high-speed domination. Its extended nose cone, flush grille, and smoothed-out front bumper were engineered for better airflow at 200 miles per hour, giving Mercury a chance to go toe-to-toe with Mopar's coming Daytona and Superbird. Under the hood sat Ford's mighty 351 Windsor V8, though race variants saw even more formidable engines. While the Spoiler II wasn't the most powerful muscle car on the street, its purpose-built body gave it a menacing and unique appearance that made it unforgettable. Only 2 paint schemes were offered: the Dan Gurney Special, which is blue and white, and the Cale Yarborough Special, which was red and white, honoring Mercury's top NASCAR drivers. Just 351 Spoiler IIs were ever produced, making it one of the rarest Aero warriors of the era. With its long, low stance and NASCAR pedigree, it stood as proof that racing was driving production innovation, and that even Mercury could build a fire-breathing missile when the stakes were high. Though overshadowed by its Mopar rivals, the Cyclone II remains a highly collectible, aerodynamic marvel. It encapsulated a golden moment when stock cars were barely stock, and Detroit's obsession with speed created some of the wildest and most distinctive muscle machines ever unleashed on American roads. Number 13, the 1969 AMC SE Rambler. This car was proof that you didn't need a big name or a big budget to build a legendary muscle car. Created as a collaboration between American Motors and Hurst Performance, the SE Rambler took AMC's modest Rambler Rogue and turned it into a compact drag strip monster. Weighing just over 3,000 pounds and packing a 390 cubic inch V8 with 315 horsepower and 425 foot-pounds of torque, this car was a rolling contradiction. Economy car roots with race day aggression. It came with a 4-speed manual transmission, 3.54 rear gears, and standard dual exhaust. 0 to 60 in under 6 seconds and quarter mile could be dispatched in the low 14s, putting it on par with far more expensive and exotic machines. What really made the SE Rambler unforgettable, though, was its look. Most came in red, white, and blue paint schemes that were anything but subtle. Hood scoops, Hurst emblems, and air callouts screamed performance and patriotic flair. Only 1,512 were produced, all in a single model year, making it a one-hit wonder that left a lasting impression. It wasn't built for luxury or refinement. It was built to shock. And shock it did, turning heads at stoplights and intimidating competitors at the strip. The '69 SE Rambler captured the very spirit of the muscle car era. Take something small, stuff it with power, and let the world hear it coming. It was AMC's loudest statement, and one of its most beloved. Number 12, the 1967 Chevrolet Camaro Z28. It wasn't built to dominate drag strips. It was created to take on road courses with finesse. Developed to homologate the Camaro for the SCCA Trans Am Racing Series, the Z28 was Chevrolet's secret weapon in a war waged with twisty turns and tire smoke. At its heart was a high-winding 302 cubic inch small block V8, forged by mating a 327 block with a 283 crank. It was rated at 290 horsepower, but true output was closer to 350, and it loved to rev beyond 7,000 RPM. The Z28 came standard with front disc brakes, a close ratio 4-speed manual gearbox, performance suspension, quick ratio steering, and minimalistic styling. No automatic transmission was available. Optional stripes and cowl induction hinted at its special status, but for many buyers, it flew under the radar as a bare-knuckle street fighter that begged for road course abuse. Though only 602 Z28s were sold in its first year, it laid the foundation for a Camaro performance legend that would grow in the decades ahead. It wasn't about straight-line numbers. It was about balance, handling, and a mechanical symphony under your right foot. Today, the '67 Z28 is revered for what it represents, the start of a lineage that made corner carving cool in a world obsessed with quarter miles. It's a muscle car with a sports car soul and one of the most significant performance variants in Chevy history. Number 11, the 1969 Plymouth GTX 440. This was Mopar's attempt to offer muscle car power in a more refined, mature package. Marketed as the gentleman's hot rod, the GTX was based on the Belvedere platform, but came packed with top-tier features and standard firepower under the hood. At its core was the formidable 440 Super Commando V8, rated at 375 horsepower and 480 foot-pounds of torque, enough to push the GTX to the low 14-second quarter-mile times, even in stock form. Buyers could opt for a 4-speed manual or the stout TorqueFlite automatic, and the GTX came equipped with heavy-duty suspension, dual exhausts, and a sure grip differential to keep the rear wheels biting. It offered a smooth ride without sacrificing performance, making it one of the more versatile muscle machines of its time. Visually, the '69 GTX was striking but restrained. A modest huge bulge, subtle badging, and optional chrome accents gave it an executive muscle look. Inside, it featured upscale trim, bucket seats, and wood grain accents, refinements that set it apart from the more youthful and aggressive Roadrunner. What made the GTX special was its dual personality, equal parts bruiser and cruiser. It offered the brawn of a street racer and the class of a grand tourer, appealing to buyers who wanted performance without adolescent flash. The '69 Plymouth GTX stood tall in an era of muscle excess, proving that raw power didn't have to come at the expense of refinement. It remains a Mopar favorite for those who appreciate muscle wrapped in manners. Number 10, the 1964 Ford Fairlane Thunderbolt. The 64 Ford Fairlane Thunderbolt is arguably the most focused and ferocious muscle car Ford ever created. Born out of Ford's desire to dominate NHRA superstock drag racing, the Thunderbolt wasn't a flashy street machine. It was a lightweight, weaponized Fairlane, stuffed with one of the fiercest engines in Ford's arsenal, the 427 cubic inch high-riser V8. With dual Holley 4-barrels, solid lifters, and high-flow heads, it was conservatively rated at 425 horsepower, but could easily top 500 in race trim. Ford stripped nearly everything unnecessary from the car. No radio, no heater, lightweight fiberglass front fenders and hood, plexiglass side windows, and even a trunk-mounted battery for better weight distribution. It was available only with a heavy-duty 4-speed manual or an optional 3-speed automatic, and drag-ready rear gears helped it launch like a missile. Quarter-mile times under 11.5 seconds were common with slicks, stunning numbers for a factory car in 1964. Only 100 Thunderbolts were built to satisfy NHRA homologation rules, with 49 4-speeds and 51 automatics. Every one of them was sold to racers, not casual buyers, and many were tailored directly to drag strips upon delivery. The Thunderbolt didn't just help Ford win races, it became an instant legend in muscle car lore. Its existence proved that Detroit could and would build race cars for the street when the rules allowed. Brutal, rare, and laser-focused, the Thunderbolt remains one of the purest expressions of factory-backed performance ever made. Number 9, the 1969 Ford Mustang Mach 1 428 Cobra Jet. By 1969, the Mustang was evolving from a pony car into a legitimate muscle machine, and the Mach 1 428 Cobra Jet was the beast that made it official. While the base Mach 1 came with a 351, the real star of the show was the optional 428 cubic inch Cobra Jet V8. Rated at 335 horsepower, though widely acknowledged to produce well over 400, the Cobra Jet gave the Mach 1 the brawn it needed to go toe-to-toe with the era's top-tier street fighters. With 440 foot-pounds of torque on tap, the Mach 1 428 CJ could rip through the quarter mile in the high 13s, a serious number for a car that could also be driven daily. Buyers could pair it with a 4-speed manual or C6 automatic, and those who checked the drag pack option got a 3.91 or 4.3 rear end with an oil cooler, effectively turning the car into a weekend warrior straight from the dealership. Stylistically, the Mach 1 was a knockout. Matte black hood with scoop, chrome hood pins, rocker panel stripping, dual exhaust tips, and unique badging. Inside, it featured high-back bucket seats, wood grain trim, and sport instrumentation, positioning it above the GT in luxury and performance appeal. The 69 Mach 1 was more than just an options package. It was a statement. It told the world that Mustang could be both fast and furious, elegant and aggressive. More than 72,000 were sold that year, proving that Ford had struck muscle car gold. Number 8, the 1966 Oldsmobile 442 W30. In the muscle car world, the Oldsmobile 442 often flew under the radar. But in 1966, the W30 package turned it into a legitimate factory hot rod. Originally a factory drag racing option, the W30 came with a 400 cubic inch V8 featuring forced air induction via under-bumper scoops, a hotter camshaft, and better breathing cylinder heads. Officially rated at 360 horsepower, the W30 was widely known to produce significantly more, especially when tuned for the strip. The W30 package included cold air induction, trunk-mounted battery, heavy-duty radiator, and special red plastic inner fenders that reduced weight. It also required a close ratio Muncie 4-speed and 4.33 rear gears, signaling this was not your average Sunday cruiser. The result was a car that could break into the low 13s in the quarter mile with very little modification, an impressive feat for a full-bodied intermediate. Cosmetically, the W30 flew under the radar. No flashy stripes or oversized scoops, just subtle 442 badging and a quiet menace. This made it the perfect sleeper for those who wanted performance without drawing attention. Only 54 W30s were built in 1966, making it one of the rarest and most coveted Oldsmobiles ever produced. The 66 Olds 442 W30 embodied understated aggression. It was built not to dazzle onlookers, but to embarrass rivals. With Oldsmobile's reputation for quality and refinement, it offered muscle wrapped in a more mature package, one that demanded respect both on the street and at the strip. Number 7, the 1969 Dodge Super Bee A12 446 pack. It was a street brawler that made no apologies for its bare-knuckle approach to speed. Developed by Dodge's Scat Pack engineers, the A12 package transformed the humble Coronet-based Super Bee into a fire-breathing monster with the new 446 pack, a trio of 2-barrel Holley carburetors sitting atop an Edelbrock aluminum intake. The engine cranked out a brutal 390 horsepower and 490 foot-pounds of torque, making it one of the quickest muscle cars of its time. The A12 was more than just an engine upgrade. It featured a fiberglass liftoff hood with functional scoop, black steel wheels, and heavy-duty suspension. The car ditched unnecessary frills in favor of pure performance. No hubcaps, no trim, just raw aggression. It came standard with a 4-speed manual transmission and Dana 60 rear axle, and it could run mid-13-second quarter miles, straight from the factory. Only around 1,900 A12 Super Bees were built, adding to the rarity and desirability among collectors today. It wasn't just fast, it looked the part too. The matte black hood, bumblebee stripe, and aggressive stance told everyone this wasn't your average Dodge. The 1969 Super Bee A12 embodied the muscle car ethos at its most distilled: maximum power, minimal fluff. It was built for drag racers and weekend warriors who wanted domination without distraction. In a world of slick showboats, the A12 was a bare-knuckle bruiser, and it's never stopped throwing punches. Number 6, the 1969 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. It was a swan song for the first-generation Firebird and a bold new beginning for Pontiac's performance legacy. Created to homologate the car for SEC Trans Am racing, the Trans Am wasn't about brute force. It was about finesse, balance, and track-inspired precision. Under the hood lived a 400 cubic inch Ram Air 3 V8, making 335 horsepower, with the optional Ram Air 4 version kicking out a high-revving 345 horsepower. Backed by close ratio 4-speed and performance suspension, it carved corners with surprising grace for a muscle car. What made the 69 Trans Am instantly iconic was its unmistakable styling. All were painted cameo white with blue racing stripes and came with a functional dual-scoop hood, rear deck spoiler, and fender-mounted air extractors. It looked like a race car for the street, because it was. Yet, it was luxurious too, with rally gauges, wood trim interior, and bucket seats. Only 697 Trans Ams were built in 1969, including just 8 convertibles, making it one of the rarest muscle cars of the decade. It set the stage for what would become one of Pontiac's most enduring and respected nameplates, synonymous with both performance and mystique. The 69 Firebird Trans Am wasn't the loudest or most powerful, but it was arguably the most complete performance package Pontiac had ever offered. It combined style, racing pedigree, and street cred in a way few muscle cars of the era could match. Number 5, the 1968 Dodge Charger RT 440. It was more than just fast. It was flat out unforgettable. With the debut of the second-generation Charger, Dodge delivered one of the most striking muscle cars ever to hit the streets. Its long Coke bottle silhouette, recessed grille, and full-width electric shaver taillights gave it an unmistakable presence. But what made it really special was what lay beneath the sheet metal, especially in RT trim. The RT, or Road and Track, came standard with Dodge's 440 Magnum V8, churning out 375 horsepower and 480 foot-pounds of torque. That kind of muscle meant it could launch hard and pull relentlessly, whether on the strip or on the highway. Paired with a 4-speed manual or 3-speed automatic, the Charger RT could run the quarter mile in the low 14s, which was serious performance in 1968. Inside, the Charger RT offered comfort as well. Bucket seats, wood grain trim, and optional center console gave it a blend of aggression and sophistication. It wasn't just a bruiser, it was a muscle car with style and road manners. Cementing its legend, the Charger RT 440 starred in one of cinema's most famous car chases, the 1968 film Bullitt, where it squared off against Steve McQueen's Mustang through the hills of San Francisco. That chase made the Charger a cultural icon overnight. The 68 Charger RT 440 wasn't just fast and pretty, it was the total package: performance, drama, and attitude. A cornerstone of Mopar greatness and a forever favorite in muscle car history. Number 4, the 1968 Plymouth Roadrunner. Introduced in 1968 as Plymouth's answer to Detroit's growing muscle mania, the Roadrunner was engineered from the ground up to deliver maximum performance at a minimum price. Borrowing the B-body platform from the Belvedere, Plymouth stripped away unnecessary luxury and added race-ready hardware. Under the hood, the standard 383 cubic inch 383-335 V8 turned out a hardy 335 horsepower, while a $346 option unlocked the legendary 426 Hemi, rated at 425 horsepower and 490 foot-pounds of torque. Both engines backed by a heavy-duty suspension and rear axle, delivering 0 to 60 mph in just 6.4 seconds for the 383, and mid-14-second quarter-mile times, with the Hemi dipping into the low 13s. Beyond its formidable acceleration, the Roadrunner was distinguished by its playful cartoon branding. Plymouth paid Warner Brothers $50,000 for rights to the Roadrunner character, emblazoning each car with the famous bird decal on the fenders and equipping it with a comical beep-beep horn that mimicked the character's signature call. This blend of high-performance hardware and light-hearted visuals struck a chord with buyers, and in its first year, Roadrunner sales outpaced Chevrolet's Corvette. Inside, the Roadrunner leaned into its no-frills ethos. Rubber floor mats, bench seats, and simple gauges underscored its focus on driving thrills over creature comforts. Yet, it still accommodated 4 adults in reasonable comfort, making it a practical weekend weapon. By 1969, the Roadrunner's popularity soared, earning it Motor Trend's Car of the Year award and cementing its legacy as the quintessential budget muscle car. Its remarkable combination of affordability, cartoon charisma, and genuine speed ensures that the 1968 Roadrunner remains one of the most beloved icons of the golden muscle era. Number 3, the 1965 Pontiac GTO Tri-Power. It wasn't just another hot car. It was a cultural detonation that cemented the muscle car blueprint. While the original GTO debuted in 1964 as an option package on the Le Mans, it was the 65 model that refined the formula and solidified its icon status. At the heart of the beast was a 389 cubic inch V8, and the holy grail configuration was the tri-power setup. 3 two-barrel Rochester carburetors working in unison to deliver 360 horsepower and a neck-snapping 424 foot-pounds of torque. Visually, the 65 GTO gained stacked quad headlights, a louvered hook scoop, and more aggressive lines that made it instantly recognizable. Inside, bucket seats, wood grain accents, and a sporty dash reinforced its driver-focused nature. But it was the sound of the tri-power setup opening at wide open throttle that left the biggest impression. Raw, snarling intake nose paired with brutal acceleration. Pontiac engineers also dialed in better handling with upgraded suspension, wider wheels, and optional limited slip differentials. The GTO could sprint from 0 to 60 in under 6 seconds and run the quarter mile in the mid-14s, all for a reasonable price tag, making it a favorite among young enthusiasts who wanted maximum thrill per dollar. The 65 GTO Tri-Power wasn't just fast, it was aspirational. It ushered in the golden era of muscle with charisma, sound, and speed. Few cars have had such a profound impact on the American automotive psyche, and even fewer delivered it with such style. Number 2, the 1969 Chevrolet Camaro ZL1. It wasn't just a muscle car, it was a street-legal race car, built for domination on the drag strip and the showroom floor. At its heart was the mythical all-aluminum 427 cubic inch V8, known as the ZL1 engine, developed for Can-Am racing and producing a conservatively rated 430 horsepower, though actual output exceeded 500. This was a purpose-built power plant with forged internals, high-flow heads, and a sky-high price tag that pushed the cost of the car far beyond any other Camaro. Only 69 ZL1 Camaros were ever built, making it one of the rarest muscle cars of all time. Each was special ordered under Chevrolet's Central Office Production Order, or COPO, program, originally intended for fleet vehicles, to sidestep GM's corporate ban on engines larger than 400 cubic inches in mid-sized cars. Fred Gibbs Chevrolet initiated the first batch, aiming to dominate NHRA Superstock, and others followed suit. Visually, the ZL1 was nearly indistinguishable from a standard Camaro, with only subtle cues like larger tires and a raised rear stance hinting at its power. That made it a true sleeper, but those who knew. On the drag strip, ZL1s could run mid-11s with slicks, shocking anyone who mistook it for just another pony car. The 1969 Camaro ZL1 wasn't made for mass appeal. It was built for racers, risk-takers, and collectors who recognized its rarity and raw capability. Today, it stands as one of the most valuable and legendary muscle cars ever produced. Number 1, the 1969 Pontiac GTO, the Judge. It wasn't just a car. It was a cultural phenomenon wrapped in bright paint and pure attitude. Born as a response to the rising popularity of budget muscle cars like the Plymouth Roadrunner, the Judge was originally envisioned as a stripped-down street racer. But Pontiac had a different vision. Make it loud, flashy, and unforgettable. Named after a comedy sketch from the TV show Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, the Judge was all about showmanship, and it backed it up with swagger and serious performance. Under the hood lived a Ram Air 3 400 cubic inch V8 producing 366 horsepower, while the optional Ram Air 4 bumped that to 370 with a higher redline and upgraded internals. It was good for 0 to 60 in around 6 seconds and quarter mile times in the mid-14s. Wide track handling and available close ratio 4-speed manual gave it impressive road control for a car this bold. But what really made the Judge iconic was the look. Bold carousel red paint, the Judge decals, hood-mounted tachometer, rear spoiler, and Rally 2 wheels. It was impossible to ignore, and that was the point. It dared other muscle cars to match its bravado. More than just fast, the Judge was Pontiac's ultimate performance statement. It fused marketing genius with mechanical muscle and youthful rebellion with engineering discipline. In many ways, it encapsulated everything the golden era of American muscle stood for, and remains one of the most collectible and celebrated GTOs of all time.